What is up everybody, it's Mackie, and today I'm going to be bringing you something a little different than my normal videos. Before we get too far in the video, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's clicking on this video to watch it, and I hope this helps you. Today I'm going to be bringing you a list of tips and tricks that I think help me and could probably help you as well on the field. And a big shout out to everybody that I play with that helped me find these tips out and definitely helped me improve my gameplay on the field. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the video. Here are my 7 tips and tricks that I would like to give you to make your gameplay better out in Airsoft. Tip number 1 is going to be make sure that your gun is zeroed. Now when I say zeroed, I mean that make sure your gun is shooting where you want it to at a certain distance. For outdoor fields, it's going to be closer to that 100 to 150 feet range. Indoor is going to be a little bit closer, but make sure your hop up is set to hit where you need it to at whatever distance you're most likely going to engage your enemy at. I know this may sound very silly, but you would be surprised how many guys you see come out and they're either over-hopping their BBs or they're under-hopping their BBs by a lot. So make sure that your gun is zeroed to a distance that you feel comfortable with and go from there. Here at my local field in Lawson, Missouri, the home field, you guys know and love it, the zeroing distance is going to be about 100 to 125 feet. Some engages happen closer than that, but if you zero your gun to about 100 feet, your 50-foot shot to your 25-foot shot should land pretty close to where you're aiming. Bottom line is, make sure that your gun is shooting where you need it to shoot before you go out and play. And with that being said, let's get to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is going to be make sure you have the correct equipment. What I mean by usable equipment is something like a vest or a plate carrier that holds your mags securely but not too tight, so they're very easy to swap in and out between in a firefight. Tactical belt that possibly holds a dump bag and maybe a pistol, maybe some grenades. You want your equipment to be suited to you and you want it to be usable. You don't need all the bells and whistles. Having a solid vest with a solid belt and a solid pistol and all these things, it means nothing unless it's set up for you and it's usable to you. Play around with it, see how your mags fit, how they're easiest to take out and reload your weapon with. If you find yourself fumbling to find something or grab something, change the location of it. Make it as usable as possible to you. Just as an example, when I first started playing Airsoft, I didn't have my mags facing how they should have been. I didn't know that, I didn't know it mattered, but when I got to playing and I realized that speed of a reload matters, I started tweaking how I reloaded and practicing and using all my equipment that was on me and putting it where it needed to go so I was able to do what I needed to do the most efficient way possible. Tip number 3 is going to be communication. Communication between teammates is very important on the airsoft field. And if you're not communicating right, then you're not going to be successful with your teammates. You might be saying to yourself, but Mackie, if I'm telling them where they're at, then there should be no problem, right? Well, there is a problem. The reason that I know there's a problem is because still to this day, I do give bad callouts. It happens to everybody. You get caught up in the moment. Don't exactly form your words right, and you give a bad call out as in he's over there or he's next to that window. When you're playing in a game of Airsoft, knowing exactly where your opponent is at is a very important key to winning the battles in Airsoft. So if you say he's over there, he's next to that tree, he's next to that building, anything like that, your teammate's not going to know exactly where he's at. You need to give specific call outs as in he's third window to the left on the right side of the window. Something that gives an actual call out is so much better than just he's over there, because giving a he's over there call can absolutely just dismantle where your teammates are looking. You might say he's over there and your teammate looks 20 yards to the left. Being very specific with your callouts is very important. And even though bad callouts happen, and I'm guilty of it myself, you just have to try to make sure that you get as much detail into telling someone where the opponent is, that way they can be engaged and taken out. Building off of tip number 3, tip number 4 is going to be play with your teammates. Use your teammates. Work with your teammates. Too often I see guys that are there for the first time or there and they've been playing for a couple of weekends and they think that they can just go and Rambo everybody. That's not how it's going to work. You have to play off of your teammates. If your teammate sees somebody, you need to find out the best way to help them and get the situation taken care of. Because if you don't and your teammate dies and you're left in the open and you don't have a way out, then you're not going to probably survive that fight. It goes without saying that having more bodies facing off against a threat is much better off in your favor. So yeah, play with your team. Tip number 5 is going to be use your cover to the best of your abilities and to the best of your advantage. For instance, if you're working around a wall, don't have your gun sticking out before you can see what's behind that wall. Your enemy will be able to see your gun before you see them, they'll know you're there, they'll take shots at you before you get to register where they're at, and then you're gonna be dead. And this rule applies for anything hardcover related. That could be a pallet in the middle of the woods, that could be a wall, that could be a door, that could be a window. Don't let your enemy see you before you have the opportunity to see them. Also, when shooting out of a window or a door or from behind cover, try to change positions as often as possible after receiving fire. You don't want to peek out a window at the same spot that you shot, because if the enemy knows you're there, you're gonna receive incoming fire. And trust me, you're not fast enough to dodge the BB. With the average mid-cap holding about 150 rounds, that enemy is going to be laying down some serious suppressive fire, and that's just saying that there's one enemy there. There's probably 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 people that saw you peek out of that window. Don't go back to that window. Change positions, fire from a new location, see if you can pick off, rinse, repeat. Tip number 6 actually might surprise some of you, but it's actually going to be what I like to call the C.O.D reload. Now, as many of you guys know, when you play Call of Duty, you run around, you kill somebody, uses 7 or 8 bullets, and you still have 30 to 40 left in the magazine, but you reload anyway. This is what I like to call the C.O.D reload. I'll get into a firefight where I expend about 20, 30, maybe 40 BBs, but I still have, 100 left in the mag. Why would I reload? And honestly, the math is pretty simple. For every firefight that you get in, especially ones that you think are going to be a very intense firefight, you want to have the maximum amount of BBs ready and available to your disposal at that time. Let's say you're trying to suppress a corner so an enemy doesn't peek out while your teammates move up, but you run out of ammo because you only had 90 BBs instead of 150. This can cause problems. I've ran into it a couple of times where I ran out of BBs during a firefight and had to tactical reload right in the middle of it. It feels really cool to do that, but it's not very practical, and if you can avoid it, then I would say avoid it to the best of your abilities. So before we get to the 7th and final tip, I wanted you guys to tell me what you think about this video. Do you think it's helpful? Do you like this kind of video? Do you want to see more of it? You guys let me know down in the comments. But let's go ahead and hop into number 7. So for the final tip, and probably the most important tip that I can actually give to you about the sport of airsoft, it's going to be to be aggressive. Play aggressive. Being aggressive in the sport of airsoft is almost like a dominance thing. When you assert your dominance in airsoft, people will be afraid, so they won't push you as hard. Now, if you have a team of people that pushes aggressive, yeah, some of you might get hit, but you just took that building that you really needed to take, or you captured that point that you really needed to capture. Some of you guys might get hit and get eliminated, but in the grand scheme of things, in the final product of the game itself, being aggressive is the most amazing thing that you can do to help your team. Majority of the time when you take the fight to the opposing team, you're going to win those fights, and that's just simply because you have the confidence and the know-how to be aggressive and not be afraid to get shot. Sometimes getting shot stings, but you can't be afraid of it, and you have to be aggressive, especially in games that aren't one life modes or where you have a long walk back to spawn. If you have a short walk back to spawn, you should be running it down. And to top it all off, being aggressive doesn't only make for better gameplay, it makes for more fun gameplay for the whole field. When people aren't sitting as much, it makes for a lot more action and a lot more good times. Simply said, it's just fun to be aggressive. With that being said, guys, that's going to do it for the 7 tips and tricks that I have for you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you take something away from it and you try to implement it into your own gameplay. If anything, I want you guys to take away from this video playing with your team and being aggressive. Those 2 things are probably some of the most important tactics that I can give you. I'm not a professional tactician by any mean or anything like that, but I do know, and I have verified myself, that being aggressive versus being slow-paced is much more effective and much more fun, especially when you have a team that works with you on doing that. But I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Next week I won't be able to make it out to the field, so I'll have to make a video out of some old footage. I hope you guys don't mind, I apologize about that. But yeah guys, it's been Mackie. Like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a thumbs up on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to turn that notification bell on because you know you guys want to be part of the notification gang. Anyways everybody, it's been Mackie. You all have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you on the next one.